Thank you everybody for coming back to my channel. We're doing a special episode today. I'm sitting here with Bronson Mack. He's been at SNWA, which is Southern Nevada Water Authority, for 22 years, longer than I've been alive. Just kidding. But we're doing a special water feature, a water series, because one of the most asked questions I get from people moving here is there enough water in the desert? You know, if I move here and I raise my kids, or my kids' kids are gonna have water in the desert. And water is life. So this is a very important video to me and to any of my clients that move here from out of state. Tell me a little bit about what you do here and
Yeah, Judge, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, of course.
So the Southern Nevada Water Authority is a wholesale water provider, and we supply water to all of the Las Vegas Valley as well as the community of Laughlin.
Okay.
And the Water Authority is responsible for all of our regional water issues. That's managing all of our water supply for the entire region. Our conservation programs, which are amongst the most renowned in the world, infrastructure, water treatment, water quality. So we really do put a lot of investment into ensuring a sustainable water supply over the long term, but also making sure that that water supply is of the highest quality that we can possibly provide. You know what the number one thing is? The number one thing is how we all use water in Las Vegas.
Okay.
And we really use water in one of two ways. We use water indoors and we use water outdoors. And the water that we use indoors, we reclaim all of that water in Las Vegas. So everything that goes down a drain, whether you flush the toilet, take a shower, do the dishes, the laundry, all of that water enters the sanitary sewer system, what we like to call the wastewater collection system.
Okay.
And all of that wastewater then gets treated at one of 4 wastewater treatment facilities.
Okay.
And our wastewater agencies in Southern Nevada do such a good job treating that water to extremely high levels that we can safely return it back to Lake Mead. But the best thing about that is that every gallon we return to Lake Mead allows us to draw another gallon out of the lake and bring it through the drinking water treatment process. And this is the way that we extend our community's water supply. Our indoor water use is a perpetual motion machine because there isn't any water consumed. It all gets recycled and we get to use it again. It's the water that we use outside, that water we use on our landscapes. That's the water we only get to use once.
Yeah.
So we actually make water conservation here in Las Vegas very easy. Just really focus on your outdoor water use. And we've got lots of tools and lots of policies in place to help our community do that.
So we got xeriscaping, which is, you know, desert life, little water, drip systems, that helps. And then we have, you know, the cash for grass thing. So we're going all turf. And just recently we did the full thing, 600 square feet or less, because, you know, your studies show that we only use the pool so much. Do you think you're going to use the pool all the time here in Vegas? But, you know, it doesn't really happen. And a lot of these luxury communities, I'm having, you know, feedback on, like, we want a bigger pool. But these are second, third, fourth homes that they don't use the pool very often.
Yeah, and we like to say a functional size swimming pool makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, we don't need our entire backyards or even our front yards. We've seen that in some of the luxury homes as well, covered in water or have swimming pools. When a functional size swimming pool of 600 square feet or less meets the need. It's enough to be able to get in there, have some fun, cool off a little bit. And in fact, the average size swimming pool in Las Vegas is about 450 feet. So you can still have a good size swimming pool, you know, create that value within that property and use less water doing so.
Yeah.
And you brought up xeriscaping. So we like to call that water smart landscaping. And really what that is, it's trees and plants. Trees and plants that are served by drip irrigation systems, because trees and plants use a whole lot less water than grass. And also trees and plants provide the benefit of the shade. And the plants themselves, aside from having diversity within your landscape, if you've got flowering plants, well, the bees and the hummingbirds and all of the pollinators in Las Vegas will thank you for that as well. And you'll be able to have a really beautiful landscape with a lot of diversity and be water efficient at the same time.
Yeah, and most of my clients love the xeriscaping because they don't have to deal with it. They just
it's less
set a
maintenance.
timer,
Yeah.
super less maintenance. The landscaping's less expensive when you do that. Also, we have some beautiful dry climate plants out here that bloom year round. They're gorgeous.
There's no doubt. And actually, we are able to sustain plants that are native to Utah and Colorado and even California. All of those plants being served by a drip irrigation system are going to use a whole lot less water than grass.
Yeah.
And that's the main issue. Before the early 2000s, Las Vegas was wall-to-wall grass. Every single property had grass in the front yard and grass in the backyard. And what we don't realize is how much water grass uses. And grass consumes 73 gallons per square foot per year. And if we put 73 gallons on 1 square foot of grass, that's a column of water that's 10 feet tall. That's the height of an NBA basketball hoop. So that's how much water we apply to every patch of grass in Las Vegas. And if you're not using that grass, if you're not throwing the frisbee, kicking the soccer ball, having the picnic, that grass is only drinking our water supply. Change that out with water smart landscaping. Your water bill will thank you, and rest of the community will thank you too, because you'll be using a whole lot less water.
Yeah, and then we have one more watering restrictions.
Yep, every single season, we ask the community to change the days or the run times on those irrigation systems. In spring and fall, you can water 3 days a week. In summer, you can water 6 days a week, no watering on Sunday, or between 11 a.m. and 7 p.m., the hottest time of the day. That makes sense if you've spent any time here in the middle of summer, in the middle of the day. And then in wintertime, you can water 1 day a week. And those seasonal watering restrictions really help to reduce our water demands by about 20%. As we change those sprinkler clocks. So that is a big part of what has created a sustainable water environment for us here in Las Vegas.
Awesome. Another question I got families that move here with small kids. Like, what does our water plan look like for the next 50 years?
Yeah.
And what do we have in place to make that plan happen? And we were talking earlier about we ran into a drought.
Yep.
And you guys forecasted for if we were year over year with that drought. Tell me what that looks like.
Well, really this drought set in the early 2000s. And it was 2002 when the flows of the Colorado River, which is what feeds Lake Mead, our primary water supply here in Las Vegas. The flows of the Colorado River in 2002 were 25% of average. Basically the river, this river that has been known as being a roaring river in the past was little more than a trickle. And that was the point at which we really recognized that the implications of climate change were going to affect our water resources. So we put forth the effort to really develop these progressive and comprehensive water conservation programs that we have today. And through that activity and through the community's support of these conservation efforts, we have seen our consumption of Colorado River water decrease by 40% when compared to 2003. And then on top of that, our community has grown by more than 800,000 people during that same time. So we supply less water to more people today, and we have a roaring economy. And really, you can't have an economy without having reliable water supplies.
100%.
So making sure that we're using that water efficiently is what makes a whole lot of sense. But when we think about future generations, I've got, kids here in Las Vegas. I have every intention that they're gonna, come out of their education and get gainful employment and raise their families here as well. The Southern Nevada Water Authority puts forth a 50-year water resource plan. And it's a plan that we update every single year. So we take projections from the UNLV's Centers for Business and Economic Research, and those projections are population projections over about the next half century.
Okay.
And we convert that to a water demand, and then we pair what that expected water demand will be over those next 50 years with the resources that are going to be needed to meet those demands. And if we demonstrate with that if we can continue to focus on conservation, that we'll be able to meet our community's water needs on our existing water supplies that we have today for at least the next half century. And then we have provisions and plans for, times in which we might need to bring on new water supplies. Now, what exactly new water supplies will look like, 40, 50 years from now, kind of remains to be seen, but there are options out there from desalination or groundwater or augmentation of the Colorado River. Overall, anybody considering moving to Las Vegas, they just need to understand that not only do we have that 50-year resource plan and reliable water supplies, but we also have about 12 years of water that is stored for our future use just in our storage locations that we can call upon if we ever need them.
Okay, where are those storage locations at?
So we store water in the groundwater system beneath our feet. We actually inject water into the groundwater system, into the aquifer, where we can recover it again.
And that's one of the biggest ones in the country, right?
Well, our groundwater system, not necessarily the biggest in the country, but it's a contained system.
Okay.
And what that essentially means is there isn't water that is flowing out of our groundwater system.
Oh, I gotcha.
And it gets naturally recharged with the precipitation and the snowpack that we get in Mount Charleston, the Spring Mountain Range, the Sheep Mountain Range. And the water that we store beneath our feet, we can bring that water up and easily deliver that to customers. And we also have groundwater banks in Arizona as well as in California. Now, kind of seems weird that we would store water in Arizona and California. And the way that we would recover that water would be through an exchange. In other words, we would call upon that water, and California or Arizona would take a specific volume of water out of that storage, maybe let's say 50,000 acre feet, and then we will take a like amount of water out of their water supply from the Colorado River, which we access
so it's like
from
an
Lake Mead.
exchange.
It's an exchange. It's
That's
absolutely an exchange.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's governed by the federal, there's laws and bylaws to make sure that happens, right?
Absolutely there are. There are agreements in place between all of those states. They are backed by the Bureau of Reclamation, which is a Department of the Interior under the federal government.
So you base our 50-year plan every year on the statistics and numbers. So if we're seeing an influx of growth in this, you take all those statistics and numbers and you match it to the water availability, what we have, and you forecast it. So every year it changes.
Every year it changes.
And if we get an influx of people and you guys look at it like, hey, from the sources we have, we're not going to be able to maintain this, you guys look for other water sources to meet that 50-year plan every year, right? If that's the case?
Yeah, in a sense, you're absolutely right. It's a 50-year projection. That allows us to ensure that, if we see high population growth one year, or if we even see a decrease in population growth, or we see an increase in water demand, or a decrease in water demand, that we've always got that 50-year outlook. So none of that is sneaking up on us.
Okay.
That gives us plenty of time to be able to adapt, to be able to implement more conservation, be able to develop new water resources just in time to be able to meet those needs in the future. But as it stands today, through water conservation, we aren't even using our full allocation of Colorado River water right now. So we still have lots of opportunity to store more water and continue to even increase water efficiency.
That's great. That's great news. So for you guys out there worried about water, numbers don't lie. So let's talk about water quality here.
Yeah. So water quality is obviously of really the utmost importance.
100%.
You know, when you think about the fact that through water treatment and the evolution of water treatment, the occurrences of waterborne illness have almost all but disappeared, especially from municipal water supplies. And that is because water agencies like the Southern Nevada Water Authority are committed to utilizing the most effective technologies and treatment processes to make sure that that water coming out of the tap is meeting all of the state and federal standards. And those state and federal standards are rigid. I mean, the Safe Drinking Water Act at the federal level, and then at our local level with the Department of Environmental Protection, those agencies and those rules really do govern what the quality of water needs to be and the actions that water utilities need to take in the event there is an issue with the quality of water. Now, we do a lot of monitoring of our drinking water. In fact, we collect more than 30,000 water samples throughout the year, and we do more than 300,000 analyses on those samples. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we are constantly running samples to make sure that that water is meeting those state and federal standards. So really what that means for us here in Las Vegas, our water has a taste. all water has some kind of taste.
Some taste better than others.
Some taste better than others, absolutely. And there are people who don't particularly prefer the taste of Las Vegas tap water. We understand that. But we want the public to know that just because it has a taste doesn't mean it's not safe. Taste and safety are not necessarily connected. So the taste in our drinking water, it's really two things. It's the mineral content, which is calcium and magnesium, and it's the chlorination, the sodium hypochlorite that gets added to the water. And just like your swimming pool that has chlorine in it, that is there to stop bacterial growth. And it's the same thing with our drinking water supply. You got to keep in mind, we're moving that water from Lake Mead all the way through the valley. It moves through thousands of miles of pipeline, and we need to make sure that that water is meeting the standard every time you turn on the tap, and that's exactly what we do. So it has a taste, and there are some things you can do with that taste. A reverse osmosis system, very affordable system. You can install that in the kitchen, and you can have that water source, that point of water source for that filtered water. You can also use active carbon filters. These are like Brita filters. You can see these attached to faucets or
we got one on the back of our fridge before it comes in the
Exactly. I was just going to say that. Even refrigerators, right? They have these active carbon filters. You just got to make sure you replace them. That'll help improve the aesthetic taste of the water. What we don't recommend is a whole home treatment system like reverse osmosis, because keep in mind, you don't want your entire house under reverse osmosis water. It takes about 4 gallons of water to make 1 gallon of reverse osmosis water.
So you're losing water.
Well, it gets recycled, right? It goes into the sanitary sewer. We get that back. But what that will do is it will increase the water demand at your house, and that increases your water bill. So usually for a whole house or a whole home system, people usually are looking at a water softener. And a water softener is just an ion exchange that happens with the water. It passes through either salt or a potassium type of media. And then that takes out the calcium and magnesium. And it softens up that water, keeps your skin from getting dry. Those with curly hair certainly like the soft water, my wife included.
If not familiar with the soft water system, if you put one in, 2 things that it doesn't filter through is the sink water, because you don't want soft water, the salt, and the outdoor when you're watering your stuff. So when you have a soft water system in your home, so your sink water is not connected to, and your outdoor water, because you don't want a soft water.
And if you are somebody who has been directed by your doctor to be on a low sodium diet, you may want to consult your doctor as to whether or not soft water is appropriate for your home.
You guys come out to the GLVAR once in a while and speak, and I heard somebody talking about some infrastructure improvements, also read about this.
When the drought set in the early 2000s, really what we saw was significant declines in the inflows coming into Lake Mead, and that resulted in Lake Mead's water level beginning to drop. And in fact, over the past 20 years, Lake Mead's water level has dropped about 140 feet because of these dry drought conditions that we've experienced. But keep in mind, Lake Mead is the largest man-made lake in the United States. It's a 250 square mile body of water. There is a lot of water in Lake Mead. There's still a lot of water upstream in Lake Powell as well. But the critical thing with Lake Mead is that is the access point where we bring water into the Las Vegas Valley through the drinking water treatment process. And with the declining lake levels that we saw, there was certainly a threat that water levels could drop below our 2 existing intakes that we had at the time in Lake Mead. And so as a community, we had a conversation. And we had a conversation about the need to invest over $1 billion in infrastructure to build a new intake into Lake Mead that would be at the bottom of the lake, as well as a pumping station that would allow us to draw that water from those deeper depths and bring that into the drinking water treatment process. And we have completed both of those projects. And in 2022, Lake Mead's water level actually dropped to a point that our highest intake in Lake Mead was above the water line. And had we not invested in that infrastructure and had intake number 3 in the low lake level pumping station, we would have lost our ability to bring about half of the capacity of water into this valley. And certainly the community understood that was a risk and made that investment. And at this point, we're able to now access our water from the deepest part of the lake, and regardless of what Lake Mead's elevation is, wherever that lake level is, we can still access our water supply. But there is a point at Lake Mead where no water can pass through Hoover Dam.
The dead zone?
We call that dead pool.
Dead pool?
Dead pool, yeah. And that is at elevation 900. And right now, Lake Mead is sitting at about elevation 1060.
Okay.
So we're still well above elevation 900 at this point, and there's still water flowing into Lake Mead, right? So it's relatively stable for now. But if Lake Mead does reach that dead pool elevation, that means no water passing through Hoover Dam. There's no water that gets delivered downstream to Arizona, to California, or to the country of Mexico. But because of this infrastructure that we have invested in and built, Southern Nevada will still have access to its water supply through that infrastructure. So.
That's good.
Yeah, it really is a water security element. In fact, it is that infrastructure mixed with our conservation that we do here in Las Vegas that really makes us the most water secure community in the entire Colorado River Basin.
Yeah, and some of the things I sat through about water conservation, we actually have people that go out and show other communities how to implement these water conservation tactics and plans.
Yeah, you know, the robust program that we have, which is extremely comprehensive, has applicability across other communities. And so we have seen communities in California and in Colorado and in Arizona implement things like turf replacement programs, incentivizing or paying property owners to replace grass with water efficient landscaping. It's a huge area where we can get significant water savings, and it doesn't affect our quality of life. We still have plenty of grass at the parks and plenty of grass at the pool, at the schools to go and enjoy.
Turf is great because it looks amazing and you don't have to maintenance it.
Yeah, say that. Oh, artificial turf.
Artificial turf.
Artificial turf. We do see some artificial turf here in Las Vegas. It's a property owner decision. I have artificial turf in my backyard.
That's great.
And I love it from the standpoint that my artificial turf is well over 15 years old. It is still holding up. It still looks good. It's not fraying. And I do not have to mow it or water it.
Yeah, that's a great thing with turf. Yeah. Our main source of water is the Colorado River that feeds into Lake Mead.
Yep.
So we have to share that with other people. It trickles down. So explain to me about how that works with the Colorado River.
Great question. Lake Mead's in our backyard. And there is sort of this perception that because it's in our backyard, it's all ours. But it's not. It's not. We share it with 6 other states. We share it with Wyoming, Utah, New Mexico, Colorado, California, and Arizona, as well as the country of Mexico. So 7 states in total, including Nevada, share that river system. 2 countries, the United States and Mexico, share that river system. And the river is divided up amongst those states. Each state has an allocation of water that they can lawfully take from the Colorado River. Now, Nevada, we get the smallest slice of the Colorado River pie. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the river was divvied up in the early 1920s when Las Vegas really was a stop for the railroads at that time between Los Angeles and Salt Lake City. But with that, and with us having the smallest slice of the Colorado River, we have been able to manage that water supply in a sustainable way that has been able to, year over year, provide water to more than 2 million people and 40 million annual visitors, while at the same time decreasing the amount that we actually deliver. And that's just all through the water efficiency activities that we've done, replacing that grass, following the seasonal watering restrictions. You know, those kinds of conservation measures have really made a significant impact. But the entire Colorado River system is under a significant drought. And that drought is probably going to persist, especially as we look at the projections of climate change and the projections associated with what we call aridification. And aridification just means it's going to get hotter and it's going to get
Evaporated.
drier. And what we just experienced in the summer of 2023, the hottest summer on record, there really isn't anyone who should assume that we're going to have cooler summers in the future. So if you are moving to Las Vegas, just know it is going to be hot. You need to focus on water conservation, and for as much as you can, when you buy that new home or move into a new place, look around that property and look for the shade. If you don't have shady trees at your property, that's going to be one of the key things that you're going to want to install. And if you have grass at that property, well, we'll actually pay you to replace that grass with those trees and plants to help you provide that shade.
What is this? It's like a tax rebate, correct?
It is actually a direct rebate from the Southern Nevada Water Authority. So all you have to do is go to our website, SNWA.com, sign up for the program itself. Once we come out and do the first inspection and just measure out how much grass you have, then you're free to go ahead and hire a contractor or a landscaper to do that work. Once that's all done, we'll come back and do a final inspection. And then, assuming that everything's going to be good with that, the Water Authority will actually send you a check. The rebate amount right now is at $5 a square foot up until the end of 2024.
Okay.
But come 2025, that rebate will be back to the $3 incentive. And $3 a square foot still helps you offset that cost.
Yeah, 100%. Then I had a customer that wanted to buy land to build a golf course.
Yeah.
But you guys are not allowing new golf courses, is that correct? Or is that?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Throughout all of Southern Nevada, there is a prohibition on any new golf courses. A lot of the reasoning for that is that we've got more than 40 golf courses here in Las Vegas.
I was going to say, I think
Yeah.
we have enough.
We've got a lot of golf
Yeah.
courses. And look, we have a lot of residents that live on golf courses.
Yeah.
You know, and so those golf courses do have an economic benefit to our community. There's employment there at those golf
100%.
courses. It's obviously also a recreational activity. So golf courses definitely lend to a quality of life
100%.
here in Las Vegas. But at the same time, we need to make sure that those golf courses aren't wall-to-wall grass. And golf courses have actually led the charge in turf conversions. They have removed enough grass outside of the non-playing areas, grass around the fairways and around the greens and tee boxes that nobody is ever hitting really a golf ball into. And they've removed the equivalent of 9 professional-sized golf courses just by taking grass out of the non-playing areas.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so golf courses have been a great partner in water conservation.
That's good.
One other aspect that we have here in Las Vegas is that a couple of years ago, the Nevada legislature passed a law. And that law says that after 2026, so in 2027, it will be unlawful to irrigate what we call non-functional grass.
Okay.
This is grass that is purely decorative.
Yeah.
This is grass that you might see.
Like medians or something.
Medians, yes, streetscapes, or even grass that's around the convenience store or the shopping center or the business park. That's not grass that anybody is using to recreate. It is only grass that is purely aesthetic. So the law states that by 2027, all of that grass needs to be removed or replaced with drip irrigated trees and plants. That would be the preference. Keep that plant diversity here in our community. And that's going to also be a big element of our future water conservation program. So any commercial properties, HOAs or multifamily residential that have grass, they need to be looking at getting that grass replaced. And all of this is just building more reliable water supplies for today as well as into the future for those of us who live here today and those of us who are coming.
And a big one is we're such a hotel heavy, tourist heavy.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about the commercial conservation, because I know you can't have swamp coolers anymore. Some big warehouses used to have them. Now they got converted them. That was a big issue with some of my clients. But tell us a little bit about that, if you could.
So we use water indoors and we use water outdoors, and that water we use outdoors, that's the water we only get to use once. That's the water we consume. And landscaping is our #1 consumption of water, but second to that is evaporative cooling. Any big properties, any big buildings we have here, high rises, box stores, even universities, high schools, elementary schools, they all are using an evaporative cooling process. It is a water intensive process in order to cool the indoor space. Think of it as air conditioning, right?
Yeah, just more water.
And our homes fortunately use a coolant as opposed to using water unless you have a swamp cooler. Some of our older homes might have swamp coolers, or you might see a swamp cooler attached to a garage.
Yeah, you usually see them in the garage in the bigger estates.
Yeah, just kind of for that smaller area. That is all very water intensive. So we do have a prohibition for any new development that happens in Las Vegas that they are not permitted to use evaporative cooling. There's other cooling technology that's out there. There's dry cooling. There's even some hybrid cooling technologies that are out there. And we've seen that being implemented in new development here. In fact, there's a very large data center that is being built in North Las Vegas that is completely dry cooled. Formula One, with the Formula One race that we have here in Las Vegas, when they built their entire Grand Prix Plaza, they actually would have been able to use evaporative cooling because they pulled all of their building permits before the prohibition took place. But F1 wanted to be a community, minded citizen here.
Good.
And they
They're going to be here for a while.
Yeah, they're going to be here for a while. And so their entire facility is dry cooled as well. So it isn't using any water. And another interesting thing that we did with F1 is we partnered on a pilot project where we got an atmospheric water generator. And so we have one of these units as a pilot project between F1, SNWA, MGM Grand, and a group called Water Start, which is really dedicated to water technology. And all of us came together, we got an atmospheric water generator, and we connected that unit to the evaporative cooling system at the MGM. And what that unit is doing, it is actually pulling the humid air, because we don't have humid air just here in Las Vegas. It's a little dry. But it's pulling the humid air that is in that evaporative cooling system, condensing that back into water, and then returning it back to the evaporative cooling system. It's improving the efficiency of that cooling system so that it's not placing as much of a demand on our community's water supply. And we're just demonstrating that these types of technologies are out there and that we can use them in innovative ways, innovative applications like we're doing with the MGM in order to improve water efficiency. And those are the kinds of things that we do here in Southern Nevada. And anybody who comes to Las Vegas and calls Las Vegas home, they will benefit from those investments as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. Technology's come a long way.
Absolutely.
It's going to be come a long way further too. I can't wait to see it evolve.
So when we look at the Las Vegas Strip, right, that is the economic engine, not just of our community, but of our state. And when you have 40 million annual visitors coming and they're staying in those hotels and they're swimming in those swimming pools and they're eating in those restaurants, certainly there is water use that is associated with that. But keep in mind, all of that indoor water use in all of those hotels is getting recycled. We could turn on every shower and every faucet in every hotel room in the Las Vegas Valley, and it wouldn't increase the amount of water we consume from the Colorado River, because again, we're recycling and returning all of that water back to it. So resorts are some of our most water efficient commercial sectors that we have in our community, and they provide a huge economic benefit. Now, they do have swimming pools, and the resorts put a lot of investment into trying to minimize evaporation, but there's going to be evaporation from those swimming pools. And certainly when someone is swimming and they get out of the pool, they take some water out with them. That's all to be expected, and that is a consumptive use of water. But overall, when you look at resorts, they use about 6% of our community's total water supply, whereas us as residents use 60% of our community's total water supply.
Pretty crazy when you got 40 million people visiting.
Yeah. And look, we're going to continue to have people move to Las Vegas. Las Vegas is a town that provides a lot of economic opportunity. You know, really regardless of what your education level is, or even regardless of what your profession is, you can come to Las Vegas and you can very likely find, some good employment, have health insurance for your family, and put your kids through one of the most affordable universities in the entire United States. So that's going to continue to attract people to Las Vegas, and that's why we as a community all need to continue to focus on water conservation so that we can ensure those reliable water supplies for us and for them well into the future.
Yeah, and since I've moved here, I've just seen it become more of a city, an actual town. You got sports teams moving here, which is great. The more sports teams, the better. We got businesses moving here just because our tax incentives are so good here in the state of Nevada.
Absolutely.
So, and I'm seeing massive growth still.
And I like to say that Las Vegas has grown over these past 20 to 30 years from being a city in the desert to being a desert city. Yeah. And we've done that through the adaptation.
That's a good phrase. I like that. I'm stealing it.
It's all yours.
Yeah. So one more thing about prohibition, because this has come up and it's been a real issue. with some of the people that have bought land, sitting on it, waiting to build, and wanting to put a septic system in.
Yeah,
So let's talk about that
septics.
one. Yeah.
So we talked about that recycling of our indoor water use. A property on a septic system is not connected to the sanitary sewer, the municipal wastewater system. That means that every drop of water that is used on that property is considered to be used consumptively. We don't get that water back. We've got about 7,000 or so existing septic systems in Las Vegas, and we're putting forth the investment to get all of those properties on septic connected to the sanitary sewer system so we can reclaim that indoor water
It's just taking time to subsidize that, correct?
It takes a long time to do that. In some of these areas, we don't have a lot of wastewater or sewer infrastructure, so that infrastructure needs to be built in conjunction with connecting those homes. If you've got vacant property and you are looking to develop that property, you will not be allowed to install a septic system. So that is something you need to be thinking about. You may need to extend sewer main up to the property in order to connect to that, and the wastewater agencies here in Las Vegas will certainly walk you through that process and help you do that. But this investment that we're making in septic systems is just another step in improving water efficiency, water conservation.
I get it. Some of the people just don't like it because they went from a $50,000 septic system because the line was so far away, to some of them were like $500,000 to get that sewer line in. But I know that you guys are going through legislation and stuff like that to try to subsidize some of that stuff, but that, any bureaucracy, it's going to take time to get that.
Yeah, and look, a lot of the subsidy that we're looking to do to help provide funding to property owners to make that conversion is for those who currently have septic systems. If you've got just undeveloped land and you're a good distance away from the sanitary sewer system, existing sanitary sewer system, then you do need to be thinking about and factoring in that cost into your overall project budget.
100%. Or contact a real estate agent and we'll contact your neighbors and get you guys grouped in so you guys can subsidize it through the community, which we've done before.
And that works really well when you can kind of crowdsource that
100%.
together. There's sharing that load, sharing that cost. That's a big benefit.
It is.
Yeah. You can visit SNWA.com. We've got links to all of that there, and you can access all of that information. Our website has a lot of really helpful and useful content. We use it as a resource for the community. You can find landscapers there. You can find qualified contractors to do turf conversion projects, and a lot of information on water quality and water resources.
That's awesome. So SNWA.com.
That's it, SNWA.com.
Well, I appreciate your time today, Bronson. It was amazing. And if you didn't get enough information, which I think we went over everything, you can SNWA.com. And thank you so much.
That's right. Thanks, Judge.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Yeah.